Hey, what is up? It is Chris J here. Today we will be discussing one of the greatest religions in the world, Islam. Like Christianity and Judaism, Islam is a monotheistic religion, meaning that only one God is worshipped. The religions worship the same God, although each faith has a different name for the deity, with Muslim calling God Allah. Unlike Judaism and Christianity, however, Muslims included different standards to their religion. Islam had a profound effect on various elements of the societies and empires based around them, such as the political, cultural, social, and economic aspects. And without further ado, let's get right into it.
What's popping?
The first signs of Islam were seen in Mecca and Saudi Arabia. There was an important man in Mecca named Muhammad. According to the Quran, one day Muhammad received a message from the angel Gabriel. Basically, the angel introduced Muhammad to the Word of God, and from there Muhammad went on to spread it. Like with any other religion at the time, like Christianity in Western Rome, the teachings and ideas that Muhammad presented were highly persecuted and rejected in Mecca, as much of the population was polytheistic at the time. This meant that most Meccan citizens believed that there are multiple deities to worship rather than one, so it made sense that Muhammad's crazy monotheistic idea of there being only one God was not accepted. Because of this, Muhammad quit and decided to head to Medina with a couple of followers that he gained. There, Muhammad built a society based around Islam, then came back to Mecca and conquered it. Then, magically, much of the population converted to Islam. This was only the start of the success of Islam. Like any other religion, there are rules to follow, or doctrines. Islam was not limited to this, as there are multiple cultural expectations of Muslims. Muslims are expected to follow the 5 pillars of Islam. There are 5 parts to this idea. The first was shahada, which emphasized that Allah was the only God. The second pillar of Islam was salat, which required for Muslims to constantly pray, like in Christianity. Unlike Christianity, however, followers had to follow a strict schedule for their prayers, for them to pray 5 times a day at specific times. The third aspect of the pillars was zakat. Zakat was probably one of the most ethical parts of Islam, as it was based upon generosity. Basically, zakat required for Muslims to support the poor, or more specifically, giving 2.5% of one's wealth to the poor. This idea of helping and donating to the poor was based on the acknowledgement of Allah's sacrifices for humans. Zakat reinforced the ideas such as self-discipline and freeing oneself from money and possessions. The fourth pillar was Psalm. To put it simply, Psalm was just fasting. Similar to Lent in Christianity, Muslims would give up many pleasures of life during a certain season, except this was much more harsh. During the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, all adult Muslims above the age of 12 who were physically capable would have to restrict from eating, drinking, smoking, and any type of sexual activity during the daylight hours. This was important in showing one's appreciation for God's gifts, as well as strengthening oneself spiritually. The 5th and final pillar was the Hajj. The Hajj was probably one of the most well-known pillars of Islam. The Hajj is an annual pilgrimage to Mecca, which all adult Muslims who are financially and physically able are expected to complete at least once in their lifetime. The Hajj represents strengthening of religious bonds between Muslims and Allah, and as well as each other. These 5 pillars of Islam, the core fundamental cultural aspect of Islam, were seen to have a massive impact on the societies of the regions to which Islam spread. Islam provided Muslim women with more rights and benefits than many other religions at the time. Unlike Confucianism that reinforced China's patriarchy system, the Quran respected women as equals to men and reinforced women's social security. These features separated Muslim women from other women at the time, as it allowed them to legally inherit property, divorce husbands on their own initiatives, and engage in business ventures. Although being Muslim provided women with benefits, they were oppressed with veiling. One of the main traditions that became popular with the Muslims was the veiling of women. Muslim women were encouraged to wear veils as a sign of modesty and often ventured out with servants to discourage the attention of men. This ultimately reinforced Islamic patriarchal societies, as women slowly became more inferior over time compared to males. On the bright side, the Quran outlawed female infanticide. For the next segment, let's go to an expert historian, Ruqi Wang.
Even though Islam didn't have much interaction with the environment, but they had several notable migrations throughout the post-classical era. For example, Muhammad's movement toward Medina. Around 550 CE, Muhammad's conflict with the ruling elite in Mecca increases. His followers were being persecuted one by one, The increase of pressure became so great that Muhammad's followers decided to flee and migrated to Abyssinia, which later on became the modern Ethiopia. Muhammad chose to stay in Mecca until 622 CE, due to an invite by the leader of Yathrib to adjudicate disputes between clans from which the city suffered. Soon, he joined his followers on a migration toward Yathrib, which is a rival trading city to the north of Mecca. Muslims called their new home Medina, which is later on known as the City of Prophet. Muhammad's movement toward Medina also served as a starting point in the official Islamic calendar. Islamic empires such as the Abbasid empires also established a massive trading route from India to Spain, and with their usage of camels, they were able to spread and diffuse farming crops such as sugarcane, rice, new varieties of wheat, oranges, limes, banana, watermelons, and mangoes. These new crops added a variety of diet and increased quantity of food. These new food also inspired a new method of irrigation and agricultural production. Industrial crops such as cotton, indigo were also diffused and been traded for economic purposes.
Thanks, Ruqi. The expansion and diffusion of Islam brought changes to political structure in various regions. The role of Islam in political affairs took a large role with the Rashidun Caliphate. Following the death of Muhammad, Abu Bakr was appointed first a caliph. A caliph was essentially like the Byzantine emperor in the sense that the ruler had both religious and political administration over their subjects. The Rashidun Caliphate was a very decentralized political structure. Unlike the later caliphates and empires that would come, the Rashidun Caliphate was not based on lineage. There was a major splitting of the Muslim following into two separate groups due to the disagreements based on who the rightful caliph should be. The Shia believed that Ali would be the best fit for a caliph, as they developed an ideology that led them to suspect that the best caliph should be a direct descendant of Muhammad. The Sunni, on the other hand, favored Abu Bakr. Over time, Sunni and Shia began to split even further, developing different ideologies and theologies. The Shia began to become more authoritarian, viewing the ideal Islamic society to have one supreme leader. On the other hand, the Sunni favored more diversity in rule, with each Islamic nation having their own political religious leader. Following the Rashidun Caliphate came the Umayyad Empire, or Caliphate, which, unlike the Rashidun Caliphate, was much more centralized. Their tight centralization and appointment of the elite class into political positions temporarily solved the dispute of succession of power. The Umayyads allowed for practice of individual religion without the cost of attacks of those who did not convert, which caused outrage. The decline of the caliph's effectiveness led to the decline of the Umayyads and rise of the Abbasids. The spread of Islam continued to influence the growth of the empire, and there were new methods of the rule devised, such as the appointment of regional governors and bureaucracies. Over time, like with the Umayyads, the caliphs became figureheads, further weakening the empire and allowing for it to be taken over by the Turks. Muslims had a profound influence on the economy of many regions. They controlled trading cities of Central Asia when they overran the Sassanids, making it impossible to trade on the Silk Road. They engaged in trade with Russia and Scandinavia. Muslims were also able to connect much of the world because of their banks would serve as brokers and exchange different currencies. Muslim involvement in large-scale trade led to a surge of long-distance trade of the early Islamic world. Islam found its way to coastal East Africa and then Central Africa. Islam attracted converts in Africa, like with the kings of Ghana, which improved trade relations between Muslim merchants of North Africa and Muslim nomads from the desert who transported trade across the Sahara. Mali benefited more than the Ghana did from the introduction of Islam. Mali rulers honored Islam and provided protection, lodging, and comforts for Muslim merchants from the north. Africa became integrated into a rapidly expanding zone of commerce and communication when Arab conquerors introduced Islam into North Africa during the 7th and 8th centuries. Adoption of Islam in East Africa laid a cultural foundation for close cooperation with Muslim merchants trading in the Indian Ocean basin. To sum it up, Islam allowed Muslim women to gain more rights than other religions and gave better lives to slaves. Islam brought a tremendous influence to political structures in the Middle East and gave Islamic empires new motivations for expanding their empires. Islam, in summary, was very similar to Christianity and Judaism, as they shared the same God, but included different religious expectations of Muslim subjects. Overall, during the post-classical era, the only notable migrations were Muhammad and his followers' Hajj towards Medina. It left an important mark in Islamic history. Islam had an influence on the economy during the 8th century after diffusing to Africa. Trade relations were dramatically improved. Thank you for watching Crash Course Islam. signing out.